Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game, here with you to do the thing on behalf of Fans First Sports Network. An honor, joy, and privilege. And as you can see, my hair is absolutely nuts. I've been pulling it out. I'm not even a member of the Duval Devout. And yet, the worst is yet to come. Of course, I had to jump in and get going to do a very special lunchtime edition of the Duval Dive here because I needed to talk my man off the ledge, my personal champion, and also Liam Coen advocate, Travis T. Holmes. Travis, are you okay? Oh, good. He's back from the ledge. Oh my gosh, I was worried, but here, let me get my hat on so I don't have to stay with this messed up hair the whole time here, so you can see a model of strength to stay strong in these tumultuous times of Jacksonville Jaguar coach searching.
Bro. I would love if I was shocked. And I've said it to so many people over the past like week and a half, 2 weeks that, hey man, I don't like this I don't like what, like, the Jaguars, right? Like you've heard from the certain people associated with the organization. They love Ben Johnson, they love Liam Coen, but it sounded like Liam Coen was going to be their favorite as far as, just looking at the general review of the resumes, right? Then they do the interviews that, things kind of shift, whatever. Like people, they come to their own conclusions of how that feels. But then you hear what Shad Khan says about the structure of the organization. We did the video yesterday talking about, how they lost out on Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears. Okay, at that point, we're kind of in a situation where it's like, okay, this is possible that they could lose out. And you have folks asking the right questions in Duval County of, hey, why are they scheduling the other interviews on Thursday and Friday of this week? That's odd, isn't it? Like, wouldn't you want the other interviews done first so you can not let Liam Coen leave the building? Wouldn't you try to get him in as soon as possible? All the right questions about this process. And not only do the Jacksonville Jaguars consistently lose this optics war, but they're also just losing the war on the field. The process stinks just across the board. Shad, man, it's the owner. That's it. Point blank. Period. It is Shad. This is his baby, and it's drowning.
So, for full context, for those that may not have heard yet, Liam Coen, the Buccaneers OC, has officially decided to re-up at our higher price to remain OC in Tampa Bay. Think Jason Garrett, most recently of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Aaron Glenn is being held at gunpoint or hostage somehow by the New York Jets. Allegedly, reports say that the job's his if he wants it, which who the hell would want that one? I even wouldn't take that job. But he appears to be re-upping as DC as well. And then Ben Johnson, of course, was most recently hired, as you talked about, Travis, with the Bears. So the top three candidates that everybody's been talking about amongst the Duval Devout are all in some way, shape, form, or fashion off the table. So I'm just going to go to the comments real quick, and we'll do the breakdown here in just a moment. Rob C. jumps in. I had a feeling might be the Super Bowl. Or no, I have that feeling might be after SB. Sorry, I read the Super Bowl wrong. Might be after SB. Hoped not. Cliff needs to be an interview. Joe Brady, please no Saleh.
Rob, wait. Let me respond to that. Rob, that's you coping, bro. You are coping like there's no more coping to be had, my brother. Like, I'm sorry, but I got to be real with you. No, like if they didn't request an interview with Cliff beforehand, you want them to wait to after the Super Bowl to then get that. That if you're circling back to having to request interviews, you have massively bungled the bag, and they have.
We'll be back on that in just a minute. I'm so sick of Trevor haters when this organization is a joke. Yeah, you're not wrong there, Rob. That might be my favorite one here. Zenith jumps in. Good to see you again. This one hurts. Ain't no drink stiff enough. Apparently he's joining you in This Team Makes Me Drink Club. And since we broached the topic, I'm going to do that thing that shows like Game of Thrones do and introduce the character that was, offered to you early on, but then kind of forgotten about. I said Joe Brady weeks ago was going to be the guy. Are we forgetting this? I knew they weren't getting Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn. I thought Liam Coen was on the board. I'll be honest. If you had told me then who you thought was the most likely to get hired, I don't know that he was my favorite candidate, but I did mention our good friend Jamal St. Cyr on here that I think Joe Brady's a candidate we're not talking about. And Travis, I'm not sitting here telling you to love rounding back and requesting interviews after the Super Bowl. That sucks. I'm with you. However, you can't rule that out, especially when there are still so many guys in play that we've listed and talked about on our coaching, well, I should say your coaching dossiers there on the Duval Dive podcast, right?
That's
Munkin is still in play. Much to my chagrin, oh God, Kellen Moore is still in play.
Yeah, Kellen Moore, you got Patrick Graham
is still in play, right? So,
but there's a big but that's
way,
lingering.
What's that?
There's a big but that's still lingering, and that's a big thing. I had a conversation just yesterday with a former NFL coach, and he said
about your co-host, but go ahead.
And he said to me, he was like, "Hey, man, this is good for the Chicago Bears with the Ben Johnson thing because they did it early, and it's something that no one ever talks about unless the team is losing is the position coaches, who the downstream coaches and the executives will be as far as your front office and your coaching staff is concerned." He's like, those guys are some of the most important people. And it made me start thinking, I'm like, you're right. He's like, the guys who get the job first are the guys who are going to get the first opportunity to hire those position coaches that everyone's going to be fighting for. And that's the piece that, like, hey, if you're waiting to after the Super Bowl, you're down to your 5th, 6th, 7th option as far as your offensive line coach, as far as your linebackers coach, as far as those guys who will be doing the day-by-day teaching of your organization. So it sucks to lose out on your coach, but it sucks even more when you think about the downstream impacts of those guys who are going to be teaching these dudes every day.
And yeah, we had touched on that actually too, on either a last episode or with Jamal St. Cyr. So there's certainly something to be said for the timing of it. But if you got a guy you want, I'll put it this way. They may have been already talking to dudes. Hypothetically, if I were to ever become head coach, would you work with me? I don't know if that counts as tampering or not. I don't know enough about those rules. I'd be honest and plain, but there is a possibility that some particular candidate. What were you saying, Travis? Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's with the agents. It's technically legal. It's fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they're just talking amongst themselves there in the, because it would be no different. It's like, hey, listen, if I don't know, because I don't want to work for ASP. Hey, man, Fox offered me something and told me to get a co-host. You down, Travis? Like, it'd be something like that, And of course, everybody's answer would be yes on that, I'm sure. But listen, joking aside, I don't want to put you in an awkward spot. But the piece being that's still a disadvantage, obviously, because things being made official, things being pulled along, actually putting a contract in a man's face and saying, here's the dollar amount. That's moving stuff in a negotiation. I don't care who you are. That's 1,000,000,000% correct. But also, I think the thing that's telling to me as well is the way that Buccaneer fans are excited about retaining Liam Coen. So I think.
I mean, they should be, like, at the end of all of this. At the end of all of this, this whole situation just makes me circle back to the whole conversation that we were having with Jamal St. Cyr on the last week's Duval Dive, I believe last Friday. This is the Jacksonville Jaguars right now are they're the guy who's going out on a date with that second and third and fourth option, and they're just and the girl's like, nah, I'm good. Like, if I'm your third option, I don't want to be there. Like, because the Jacksonville Jaguars, they laid it bare and had the radio over the head, standing out in the rain for Ben Johnson, and they missed. They missed the shot, and unfortunately, Ben was like, I'm good, bro. Like I'm really fine just staying over here being single by my being single by my bad self. And that's really what it sounds like it came down to. Hey, Ben Johnson straight up. Ben Johnson said I don't like the structure. I don't like the way y'all do things in the front office. I don't like your organization or your crew. Like, he basically hit them with the Bad Boy Records comment. And all right, cool. Liam Coen was like, I don't know that I love this either. And that's what it's sounding like. They're not rejecting the Jacksonville Jaguars team roster players. Man, they're rejecting Shad Khan
There
and
are, but
maybe Trent Baalke, handcuffed to them. But no one seems to do this, and Shad is just so blind to this fact that he's just gonna be like, all right, cool. This is gonna be a throwaway year, another throwaway year for these players. Trevor Lawrence, Tyson Campbell, Trevon Walker, etc. Sorry, guys. I'm not saying you got to give up and lay down or anything like that. And if you get maybe a good defensive coach that's passionate about reinstilling this culture, you can be dominant. But I got all the doubts at this point. Like, I'm sorry, I can't even try to give y'all a benefit of grace at this point, man. It sucks. The process sucks.
So, and yeah, no, we've touched on that. So let me ask this question, and we'll get into other coaching options later. I definitely want to touch on that. I see the comments coming in with people who, people that are out there for his candidates that the commenters here want or don't want. Which, listen, we're going to touch on all that because there's this show is so great because I, as a non-fan, don't understand all the biases for or against. And when Travis can't directly explain it himself, you guys jump here and do a fine job to help us have a really good conversation, better than you'll see in a lot of other places, man. And listen, I like that we bring in other media guys to do that too, but what you guys do in the comments is also very unique and helpful to our cause, man. So I just want to throw you all shouts there real quick. Am I sucking up to y'all? Damn right, because I know you helped make this great. But Travis, here's the question. If you're Shad Khan, because keep in mind, the point everybody makes in these scenarios, be it Shad, be it Jerry Jones, be it Daniel Snyder, before he was forced to part ways with the Commanders. I'm still going to be bitter about that missed opportunity. I'm sorry. Other than selling the team, which clearly Shad Khan doesn't want to do, why the hell would he, with all the investment? I almost said embarrassment. Investment that he's made. And all the things he set up to bring in not only the betterment of Jacksonville proper with some of his construction projects, but getting international recognition to the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? What can he do to fix that image?
But this ain't hard, man. Like, billionaires, we've always established that billionaires don't think like us. So I'm fully on board with that understanding from most working folk. That's most of us that's listening to this. Cool. They don't think like us. Fine. But you know who does? Most regular people who actually do this for a living. Like, I don't know, general managers and former general managers. Everyone like that's not already being paid by you. So right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 12 years in to doubling down with Dave Caldwell. And what I mean by that is the Jacksonville Jaguars hired Dave Caldwell. Dave Caldwell then hired Trent Baalke as a director of player personnel because he'd known him for 20 plus years. And that was kind of like they had that relationship. And 9 months later, Dave Caldwell is out of the door. And Trent Baalke is the interim general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Let me stop you there. I don't think you get the crux of my question because you're giving us another history lesson. I understand.
No. Give me a second. Let me link it. Let me link it.
You
just let me link it.
My bad.
Let me link it.
My bad.
Shad Khan has made one general manager hire who was Dave Caldwell, and he is scared out of his mind of making another one. That is my read of the situation. That's just personally where I am, because Dave Caldwell had to bring in Trent Baalke, who had a better resume than Dave Caldwell. So now we're stuck in a situation where Shad is simply not going to make that hire, and he's proven to us time and time again that that's not going to happen. You need an EVP. And he hired Tom Coughlin. It didn't work out because Tom just was, overstepping boundaries and NFLPA investigations, all of that things. But that did not mean that you don't need an EVP. That simply means you had the wrong one and you need to hire a better one or a different one. Cool. That is executive vice president, and it's who this Jacksonville Jaguars team needs because they are doing well with the Mark Lamping business side of the organization for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are failing spectacularly on the football on-field results, and that is primarily due to Shad Khan and the way that the structure, the hierarchy of this organization, because it is breeding distrust. It's breeding distrust from people applying for the job. This man said straight up, I don't like the way y'all do things. Ben Johnson says, I'm out. Liam Cohen's like, I'd rather just be paid a little bit more and stay where I'm at, man. I like being single at this point because I don't like the way y'all do things either. Cool.
Well, let's give Liam Cohen a little credit. I mean, you are very likely right that is more than just an element of it. But listen, there's something to be said for, hey, listen, the guy we got coaching now, he's of a particular age. He ain't going to be here forever. We like what you're doing. You continue to help us dominate a crap division only to constantly get bounced in the first round or two. Here's some money. Stay around. Be the heir apparent, and we will pay you those dividends for you to wait. There's something to be said for the Bucs recognizing they have a guy that they want to keep in the building. Let's not act. Which, by the way, to your point, is proof of good process. So
facts. That's actually a good process and a solid organization that's able to make smart decisions. Weird. We don't know what that's like in Duval County. I'm sorry, we just don't. And that's been most of my adulthood. And I don't understand how you don't see that you don't have a good process when you built multi-billion-dollar industries. This is simple. These are layups. And that's what I mean when I say an EVP situation. This isn't hard, but for whatever reason, I say billionaires don't think like us. That's what I'm linking it to. How do you not see how this is very easy? You have an EVP and you create a structure like most of these winning organizations. You're currently creating a structure that breeds failure, that breeds bad process, that breeds bad results. And you're seeing those bad results right now. So now the Jacksonville Jaguars are down to potentially their third, fourth, maybe even fifth options for head coach of this team. And that's expected and also terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the fans' eyes, they're down to option 4. Let's be clear, right? I think that's certainly the case. And I think that's the question I'm really asking you is, okay, so you think the solution is to bring in another EVP. That's cool. I think that's a start. I'm with you. But if
I think the EVP changes the process, I think it changes the front office structure. I think that matters.
And well, then what also has to happen is that guy needs to be front and center. We needs to stop seeing, frankly, I think it might be a good thing to stop seeing Shad Khan in pressers, period, for a while. Facts. If they get that new EVP, that guy becomes the face of the organization. Let Shad Khan, stick to a few face appearances on one of his son's wrestling outlets. Maybe that's cool. But if that new guy comes in, he's got to be made the face. He's got to be prominent, and he's got to be prepared to take blame if his changes don't work either. Because that's, that's on the table too, right? Like I'm picking a name. I'm not picking on you, Mr. Pacelli, please. But let's say he picks Tony to be that EVP and it doesn't go well. He's got to be prepared to take those slings and arrows. And I'll put it this way. His family got a taste of him going around everywhere when he was a Hall of Fame candidate. I don't know that they're digging that, man. So
can I be clear? Picking Tony, and I love Tony as the player. I love Tony as the personality, but picking Tony as the EVP for the Jacksonville Jaguars feels like picking just anyone just so you don't have the blame on you. I just want to be honest about this because, again, I know it worked out for John Lynch in San Francisco, but generally speaking, you don't pick the person who is leading your future of your organization who has no experience in personnel and no experience in scouting.
Well, John Lynch is from outside of the organization in his own right, not within it. I would add that. For what little bit.
That's fair, but whether you're outside of the organization or inside of the organization, my overall point is the reason you're hiring an EVP is because they understand the whole process. They understand it from top to bottom, and that is the person who is leading your organization, who is going to be the internal voice of your organization, while the coach is the external voice of the organization. That is the way that's supposed to work out. So Brad Holmes in Detroit, like that makes sense to me. Baselli in Jacksonville does not make sense to me, and honestly never has. Like, he should have a voice in the organization. I don't think it needs to be the head voice, and I've always thought that. So just to be clear, that's not a knock on Tony. That's just me, my personal opinion. I need that top guy to have one of these feathers in their cap. He does not have those things. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing. You're just making moves for the sake of making moves, and it's still a bad process at that point.
Okay, fair enough. This comment comes in, Jay Ashley. The Jags will never be good until the entire Khan family is gone. What sucks is Sean is going to continue to ruin this franchise with its incompetence and will sell the team to his doofus son. First of all, pew, 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 shots fired. Second, What you just described is something we've stated on this show or asked on this show in weeks past. I forget which episode precisely, but semi-recently. Is Shad Khan the next Jerry Jones? It's very interesting. So,
oh no, he's because he don't know enough ball to be the next Jerry Jones, and
oh
that's not a knock. It's the truth. It's the
Well,
truth. I mean, again, I can tell you, I haven't had a 5-minute conversation with Shad Khan. I've spoken to him. We said hello, in passing, cool. But
he is a nice guy.
I don't need to have that in-depth conversation to see how your actions tell me everything I need to tell you. I tell my wife the same thing. I tell my kids the same thing. Your actions speak way louder than your words ever will. You can explain to me all day how you know ball, but if your actions show me that you don't, I'm judging your actions way harder than any of the rest of that.
Hold on.
His actions and how this.
You're not over here getting on your son's case that he don't know ball, right? Like, are you? He's
Nah, not yet. He not yet. He only 5. Was that a touchdown? Yes. All right, cool. We good. But nah, man. Like, your actions have shown me you don't understand this, and unfortunately, you don't. Maybe you don't care. Maybe that's it. I don't know, man. But this is obvious that something needs to change, and it ain't gonna be changing in 2025. So we have to look forward. Unfortunately, Jack. And I'm sorry to tell you this on day 1 or day 0 of of losing out on Ben Johnson and Liam Coen. But what's next, man? So we got the next coaches. We have the other coaches that, like, as you guys have been discussing in the chat. Hey, if you want to get into some of these comments, cool. But we got Patrick Graham, who I've been kind of beating the table for the last 24 hours because people just don't know about him and they kind of down him because he's from Las Vegas Raiders. But he's
in the show,
very solid candidate.
Content. We'll get there, homie. Hold on now.
But yeah, man, that's we have a few guys who are solid options in their own right, and I would hate to have to kind of down them for that, but it just sucks because of course they're not the Jacksonville Jaguars top 2.
Yes. Oh, Hef is saying there's a league-wide mutiny against Sean. It's kind of an unspoken blackball, but is it blackballing if you're just incompetent? No, it's not. Very simply put.
Nah, man. Yeah.
So let's get Robin here. Well, I never thought I would want the Chiefs to win, but Brady is my second worst case. Second worst case. If you're asking for Mike McCarthy, I'm just going to fundamentally disagree with you and move on. If I have to explain that at this point, I can't. I won't. Not this episode, at least. Trent's option was always Saleh. I don't
believe that.
I keep hearing. People have their issues with Robert Saleh. I think it's because he's got the stink of the Jets organization on him. A lot of what went wrong up there isn't his fault. We have talked about that on this show, by the way.
That's all true.
Yeah, being said, I get why you're not his favorite, but I don't know that he's the worst option out there. Again, citing Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy. Am I the problem?
But you don't have to be the worst option to be a good option. Can we say that? Like, you don't have to be the worst option to be a good. But the fact of the matter is, the reason people don't want Robert Saleh is because they know it's an obvious risk with limited upside. We still would not know who the offensive coordinator is going to be, and that's still going to be a question in the conversation. And we still know he does have the stink of the Jets organization not being able to develop Zach Wilson, rightfully so, and not being able to deal with the Aaron Rodgers, Nate Hackett situation for the Jets. Again, rightfully so. That's nearly an impossible. Yeah, that's a near impossible situation. But the fact of the matter is, it feels like you're going in with a hope and a prayer to be a 500 team. If you're aiming to be a 500 team and that is your aim, you are failing from the jump. Like, if that is what you're looking for, and that's why I always had a problem with the Doug comments after this end of the season, that he didn't think it was a Super Bowl contender, or I forget the exact verbiage, but I'm putting my preference on it.
That's essentially what he said. You're not wrong.
And I'm just like, yeah, so if that's the case, then shut it down. Like, start over. If you're not aiming for us to be a Super Bowl champion from day one and you can't even see that future, what are we doing here? We're wasting time, bro. You in the words of my mama, you dating. If you ain't gonna put a ring on it, you wasting time, man. You just out here dating and just playing around. Stop playing house.
Well, okay. First of all, there's a lot there that you're right about. I will put this on it. The reason why Doug's comments about this isn't a Super Bowl team are distressing is because it was year 3. That's why. Okay. If in year 3, after making the playoffs once and competing so desperately close for them the next, because everybody done forgot already, 1 game away, right? They actually beat the Bucks like they were supposed to. They're in the playoffs. And I know you would say that that's a bad thing because it would give false hope. I understand. We've had that conversation. But in year 3, if you're saying no Super Bowl, you're wrong. This next coach shouldn't expect to have a Super Bowl roster. Targeting it is different than expecting it. But getting a Super Bowl out of what's here, you're just fundamentally down in the trenches, both sides. Already, you can't get to a Super Bowl, period. So I'll put it this way.
But two of those guys had the potential. And that P word is heavy, man. Two of those guys had the potential, and you could see it. Like, you could see the route with Ben Johnson. You could see the route with Liam Coen. If you have the explosive offense, there's a route to getting there. If you're trying to go heavy defense and hoping that we can just be okay on offense, that's ugly football. And we know 10 teams in the NFL right now who are trying that same route and the hoping and prayer that they can make it to a Super Bowl or just be a consistent playoff contender in that route. It's not a bad route. It's the uglier, harder, longer route to see. And it's a lot harder to see it for fans versus just seeing that offensive guy and I'm going to outscore you.
I will grant that it's harder for fans to see. That's the thing I'll agree with. When you're doing defensive football, I would argue it lasts longer term because money is less likely to destroy it. But that's a future show topic that we can talk about once a coach is hired. I like what you're saying there, though, in a lot of cases. I'll get with that. Yeah, that's cool. I'm not so anti grinding it out, but again, let me flash the credentials for the offensive line thing, and we'll move on. So, crap. I forgot what the last flipping comment was. Now you guys are doing great. It's a good sign when I can't keep up with the comments.
It's a good sign that they're pissed off. That means they're still engaged and they still care.
Facts. I hope everyone keeps declining due to GM situation. That's actually a smarter statement than one might think out there. Zena's making a good point. It's the only way to get rid of Bulky.
But it's never going to happen at this point. And I mean, obviously they're not going to fire him now.
He's arguing for 26 is what I mean.
I know, but that's what sucks because whoever this coach that comes in, you have a roster that just went 4-13, and now realistically your GM is going to be on the hot seat, hopefully. And I say realistically, but who the hell knows what's realistic right now in Shad Khan's mind? Like, I'm not him, but that's what sucks the most is whoever the person that comes in, God bless him, because you might not get a second year. And that's with the patient Shad Khan. And that's the craziest part about all this. If he goes 5-12 or 4-13 or whatever the number is, that's not 500. I pre-feel bad for whoever the coach is going to be, whether it's Saleh, whether it's Patrick Graham, whether it's Joe Brady, whoever, because right now you're set up for failure even more than the offensive guys already previously were. Like, where do you go from here, man?
So yeah, this is what I want to spend a little time on because this is interesting. Doug calling all the candidates to stay away from Jacksonville. I mean, I can't rule that out.
Yes, Lord, that's hilarious. But Doug probably ain't got to call them. They got eyes. Folks know what's going on, man.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's a real point. He ain't got to call him. Robert's in there in your camp again. He's back on the Spielman thing, which I would love to see it. I don't think it's happening. But Robert, we're with you on that one, buddy. Half doing some conspiracy theory, Bulky league Liam so he can get Saleh.
Don't even make sense, though.
Y'all acting like draft day up in here.
I don't get it though. I don't even get what the end point would be with that. Like, that's so weird, man. All of it. But Balky does leak. We know that's the rumor across the board is that he has, these social media accounts. Like, he acknowledges that he sees the stuff. He sees the tweets. So I don't know, man.
This one makes me laugh. Just hire Gruden.
Nobody
would touch it. No. Let's see. This is a good point too. Robert brings in when Khan asked Coach Malarkey if players play both sides is good enough evidence that Shad Khan don't know ball. Facts. Matt agrees with you. He's worse than Jerry Jones. This is interesting. Jay Ashley comes in. Munkin is my new number one as a USM fan. I've seen him take over a dumpster fire and turn them into a legit football team. Talk a bit about Munkin. We haven't yet, man. What do you think?
Todd has a great argument, and I felt much better about his argument. I felt a lot better about it, how he's done as a candidate before his last game. And I know you shouldn't put too much weight on individual games, and generally I don't, but I'm a little bit thrown off that his team identity, their core, who they are, is running the ball. And 2 years in the playoffs, in their last game, the last sight that you see is a Baltimore Ravens team that avoids the run. They stopped at 16 carries with Derrick Henry in this postseason game, and then end up losing. And I'm like, dude, you established the run all season and dominated other teams, and you can't then get away from that when the season's on the line. And he did the same thing last year against KC.
On the
And because
contrary,
of the
I'm going to have to step because we're at minute 30. I'm not listening to the whole diatribe because I hate this argument, frankly, with all due respect.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
What's up?
Everybody forgetting that the Buffalo Bills have the most underappreciated defensive tackle core in the NFL, and you have once again added yourself to that list. It's not quite as bad as your disrespect for Cam Little, he said jokingly.
I'm underappreciating them because I'm saying that the offense can dictate to a defense, and you're telling me an underappreciated Buffalo Bills defensive line should dictate to me one of the top rushing
No, he
offenses
called a
in the
play
league?
that worked, and if you're going to roast him for a guy dropping a very obvious catch, the coach can't.
No. You're talking about one play. I said 16 carries across a game. You're talking about one play. I'm not referencing
because
a play.
He established what is he got 84 yards with Derrick Henry, right?
16 carries, and they won 2 games when he had 16 carries or more. And it's more than 16 carries.
Hold on,
and they were both against the Bengals.
You're a better data man than to bring up stats knowing those are different opponents. Come on, man.
No. I'm saying the only games that they won in the season were against the Bengals when they had 16 carries or less. That's the only times it's actually worked for them in the season because they are a run the ball first team, and Todd Monken in 2 years straight got away from the run when it's the best thing for them. They had 2 2-point conversions where he didn't run the ball. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell are you doing, bro? Like, I'm yelling it in real time when it happens because I'm like, you are failing your team. You're being too galaxy brain when it matters. Well, and yes, he did. He made the right. He called the right passing play for his tight end to catch the ball. I will agree with you, but you're also disregarding the situation that is surrounding. It is snowing. They had already dropped multiple passes. They were
fumbling the ball too. Let's be honest.
They weren't showing up for your quarterback at that point. So I'm saying across the board, when you look at who the team is identity-wise, you look at your record when you don't run the ball 16 plus times. You look at the fact that they had already been failing you multiple times as far as your supporting cast after that first quarter. All of that combined put together tells me I need to be who I am. And if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose doing the thing that I've been doing well all season. And Todd Monken shied away from it 2 years in a row. And that gives me pause for him.
He shied away with it a lot more with the Chiefs. Now, granted, I think there were a lot of plays that weren't accounted for because they were mostly missed calls. No, I'm not one of these ref apologists or ref advocates thinking they help the Chiefs. That's not what I'm saying. Matter of fact, the Texans beat themselves way more than anything the refs could do. We ain't got to talk about that right now on this podcast. But here's my thing. You and I may still be having this conversation, Travis, because we watch the games and we pay attention to the details. What I'm also telling you is no one else would be with Monken if Mark Andrews catches that ball and Derrick Henry breaks off an 80-yard touchdown in overtime for the win. They're not having that conversation.
Maybe. But nevertheless, Todd Monken has a solid resume. He does have a solid resume as far as significant years of multiple, quarterbacks that he's developed. Stetson Bennett at Georgia. He's had Dwayne Bowe and Buster Davis as wide receivers at LSU. He's obviously done well with Lamar these past 2 seasons, and career seasons for Mike Evans in Tampa Bay, career season for Nick Chubb in Cleveland. Like, Monken has the resume, especially as long as he's coached in the league, and he would probably be able to build a solid defensive staff. There is still the questions about his interviews the last coaching cycle that reportedly didn't go well, but that could have been, an ill fit between either the Panthers or the Chargers leadership. We don't really know because you're not in that room doing those interviews.
So the Panthers, who are just an awful organization of late, and the Chargers organization, which if all I got to do is mention the name Spanos, and that makes sense too. So is it Monken?
Seemed to be doing fine this past season, so I got to give them some kind of credit. Well, this is the same hiring cycle. Yeah.
This is up there with giving Trent Baalke credit for drafting BTJ. All Spanos had to do was go get Jim Harbaugh. That's not the same, buddy.
No, fair. All right, but the folks aren't even asking the final question of would Todd Monken even work with Trent Baalke?
Correct.
We have not had that whole conversation when he's literally works for Harbaugh's brother. You got Jim Harbaugh and you got John Harbaugh, and one of them had a bad situation with Trent Baalke, and Todd Monken knows about that. Would
Fair.
he be willing to have that relationship with
That's a hell of a
with Trent
point
Baalke?
by you, buddy. That's a great
So
point by you.
that's what folks are asking about. Hey, I want him to be my favorite guy. I'm like, does he want to be here? Or how bad does he want to be here? What kind of leverage would he have over the Jacksonville Jaguars? Hell, at this point, he might have more leverage than Ben Johnson because they are down to the third, fourth, fifth option. So you know what? Maybe go with Todd Monken. Maybe that man got the cachet to get Trent out the door. Who knows at this point?
That's a fascinating one. Heath jumps in. It's another Mike Mularkey situation. Shouts to Heath, by the way. I don't know. Are we there yet? If we get Joe Brady in the building here, we being the Jags, of course, if we get Joe Brady in here, and I say that from the press perspective, like that's the guy we'd be talking to. That would be interesting to me. And again, for those who haven't heard it, my reasoning is he already has experience improving a quarterback as he did one Josh Allen. I think that same touch would be applied well to Trevor Lawrence. That's just where I
don't know, man.
Now, granted, also he has to learn to be a head coach as well. But yeah, learning on the job is what you're going to have to deal with at this point, as you've said, right? Let's see. Robert jumps in. We need to go 1-16 to make. I mean, it may take another garbage season. I'll leave it at that. You may not be wrong.
I mean, I don't have any confidence that they're going to learn something from that process. That just means we went 1-16 because of the new coach needing time to develop the players, or the players not playing the right amount of snaps, or fill in the blank, man. I mean, just because Jaguars, we're never going to get this right. It's never going to be. It's never going to be Shad's fault, and it's never going to be Trent's fault. So as long as they are here, we have an issue. As long as the structure is what it is, we're going to have an issue with hiring the right guys. So we're going to have to pray and hope to get lucky, to fall into the right guys, sort of like they fell into BTJ after trading back, even though they didn't understand that he was going to be there. But they hoped that he would be there with a group of other guys, and they end up picking him. Awesome, but that doesn't mean that it was a good process. It means they got lucky enough to get the right guy. Apply that same logic to the coaching search. We're just hoping to get the right guy by luck.
Might as well hire Prime. I mean,
Lord, bro, we are down bad. Oh, we are down bad.
This final comment, I think, expresses that point. McCoy will end up the head coach. Nobody wants the job.
I mean, Saleh probably would take it before then, but I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't, because I mean, we all make these assumptions, but these guys, like, they don't understand what's going on in Jacksonville. And if you're applying for a job, you're absolutely, and you work in the NFL, you know what's happening here. Like, he's coming from a bad organization in the Jets.
I don't think it's quite that simple, though. Your point is well stated on a landscape where it's like you and me, like you and I both have worked in insurance, and generally speaking, insurance, fair or not, is that white collar version of pumping gas. Everybody can work in insurance, allegedly. That's not actually true, as you come to find out, but let's just stick with this analogy, right? So it's not like somebody working in insurance where they could apply somewhere, work really hard, and be promoted and maybe get a team one day. The NFL job and panel of jobs, there are 32 of them in the world. You don't just land on these SOBs. It don't just happen. I mean, so with that particular concept in mind, there's an element of give and take there. You mentioned leverage, and it's huge. Robert Saleh has none, fair or not. Okay. There's still, I was talking, I forget who it was, but it was somebody out there trying to tell me that Robert Saleh was one of the worst head coaches in the NFL. Just patently false. And it was through a situation he had no control of, nearly got playoff berth with Mike White and Zach Wilson.
7 wins with those guys.
Yeah, that alone is world building-ish right there. Now, again, it'll come down to the staff. Not Nathaniel Hackett would be a good start, right? So all the above being said, I don't it's that place where it's looking bleak, man. I get where you're coming from, man.
And then who are you going to hire as an offensive coordinator that's actually going to give you that's actually going to give you confidence that it's going to be solid moving forward? That is the question of the hour. Like, you're probably pulling someone from college at that point and hoping that they can give you something that's aggressive and,
Yeah, it
able to
can
spread this
work,
thing down the
but
field.
you never know, man. You're
Right. It
absolutely
can
right.
work. That's the point. It can work, but you already limiting your options when you're handcuffing them not only to Trent Baalke, which is a huge handcuff in and of itself. That's a anchor on your ankle. And then you're also handcuffing them to Shad and the structure of this organization, because none of these guys are going to have the power to change that. And I don't think it's good. I've said this on multiple times. I've said this on the record on multiple shows. I just don't think the structure the Jacksonville Jaguars have is good when you have the guy in charge who is Shad Khan. It's just
Yeah,
not a good situation.
yeah. I can't put it better. We got more comments coming in. I
Or,
You know what? I think I'll put it this way. I'll go back and read these. Please jump in the next episode, guys, because you got a lot of stuff going. We're already over 40 minutes deep. We got to wrap this beast up.
yeah, let's get to
Great
these last comments
conversation.
and then we'll just go. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. He said, do the last few comments.
Yeah, let's just run through them real quickly and then let's get out of
Okay.
here.
Let's see. This first one. Okay. I don't know. Altman comes in as he pointing to something as he should. The moment Doug saw what Shad had to say in the exit interview, you know what he had to hear about. I wouldn't have told everybody. Okay.
I would have told everyone how it was working with Trent and Shad. Which,
Yeah, I would have aired the dirty laundry, basically. Yeah.
these guys talk. I
get
mean,
that.
the agents talk, and all, like, they all know what's happening, and I don't think that's much of a secret. It's a secret to fans. It's not a secret to players
Yeah.
and coaches.
Matt Wahlberg jumps in. Does he really deserve credit for Josh Allen? At least some. Listen, what we saw was the Bills offense was trash and turning the ball over. And then the back half of last year, they got hot. Okay. This year, I don't know if you would say they got hot necessarily, but they were asking Josh Allen to do less, got him more accurate, and were able to make him a true distributing quarterback with no real number one receiver. Who exactly is being asked to do that very thing pre-BTJ? You're damn right it's Trevor Lawrence. And now Trevor Lawrence has a number one receiver in BTJ if he continues to develop, if he meets the expectations that unfairly, one must say, that the Duval Devout have already placed upon him. Right? Hopefully his body holds up. Hopefully all those intangibles occur and he grows. And maybe they get Ted McMillan like we talked about on another episode. But do I directly credit him for Josh Allen? Not necessarily. I get that argument, but he's still in that space to have gotten that offense to work better by asking a guy to do a little bit less. And I would imagine in the draft process and the free agency process, he would do that very same thing for Trevor. And some of the pieces to do that are already in the building if they keep them.
I would give him equal credit as much credit as they give Brian Dable. And I think he's a solid. I think he was a solid coach also. But there is still the questions of, is he too new? Is Joe Brady going to be able to build up that staff on it, especially the defensive side, the position coaches that we already talked about? That piece is where I would be more concerned. But as far as what he's done on the offensive side, I am fully in agreement with you, sir.
Yeah, 100%. No, and it's a good question, Matt. I'm not meaning to diss your point of view, but that's where I'm sitting at. I'm not making you agree with me. That's cool. Yeah, Zenith brings up a good point. We all have garbage seasons. Our peak was 9-8. That's a hell of a statement.
That's facts.
I'm convinced the trade down to get BTJ was what saved Trent. I'm not. I
am not either. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, Matt. For sure. Like, that's going to be, hey, this is what I've done lately. It's a lately league. It's part of the conversation, but they're going to start stacking up smaller wins like Anton Harrison and other guys that are getting time, but aren't necessarily great. These guys that you talk about, Travis, that are good players, getting great money, holding things down. I think that is what's keeping Baalke positive is that. particular
I mean,
case.
I think Shad Khan does not evaluate Trent Baalke in the ways that he evaluates the players or he evaluates the coach. I think he evaluates the coaches based on the product that's on the field and based on his conversations with players. So that's how comfortable they are. If there's any drama or anything like that behind the scenes, and basically purely the record. Cool. That's easy for the players. It's easy for the coach. It's harder for the general manager, but I personally believe that Shad's probably just looking at this thing like surface level. Hey, are you extending other play? Like, are you extending players? Cool. You got Tyson Campbell got extended. You have Foye Lucan got extended. You even had Roy Robertson Harris who got extended, even though he didn't make it, on the finish the season on the team. You got the Trevor Lawrence extension, etc. All down the line. You have all these extensions that took place. Even if you didn't bring these guys in originally, it doesn't matter. You extended these guys. The cap looks generally healthy, even though you're using void years to do it. So you're technically borrowing against the future. But again, if you're someone who does not know football in those great intricacies, it doesn't matter. It's a harder to gauge and judge a general manager than it is these other guys who are being graded on base things. So from that perspective, Trent, no, you're doing fine. He hasn't made any huge blunders. The coaches and this is obviously the greatest roster in Jacksonville Jaguars history ever assembled. So obviously Trent's doing fine. I think he's about average, maybe even above average. Let's keep going with that. That's where I think it's being looked at. And BTJ might be another feather in his cap, but I'm not even 100% sure that's the case.
Yeah, no, and that's completely fair by you. And you've talked about backing into that situation too with the way the Ridley thing went. So I without rehashing that, we'll do that another episode for sure. It'll come up. I'm positive of that. But yeah, Zenith, man. Zenith, I love you, but we're going to open fire on this. Who's willing to throw away their second chance head coach with this? You pretty much have to take McCarthy or Pete Carroll. No.
I love Pete Carroll. I don't care what nobody says. I would love if Pete Carroll came in. I think he actually would be able to say, hey, man, I need roster control. And maybe they would listen. Like, that's more like a Bill Belichick type of situation where he's like, I need roster control. And maybe he might actually get it. Trent might be a scout or, director of player personnel again or something. But I could see that taking place.
If that happens, three things will be true. A, it would be way later in the process. Like the fifth alarm fire has gone on. I'm talking into late February. The hire still isn't made. That's when Pete Carroll would happen. B, if that happens, he would have by then had the leverage to do what we all have been calling for, getting rid of Trent Baalke. And lastly, of the remaining assistant coaching candidates, right, in the tree, he would have the ability to get the best ones still available. So I will give you all of the above. That being said, I will continue to make jokes about how he escaped to the NFL from all the players he bought at USC, and I'll leave it at
that. That is interesting. As I can tell, you have all the hate in your heart from Mr. Carroll as a San Francisco 49ers fan.
Listen, if he didn't coach in Seattle, he might have had a fighting chance. No, listen, all that joking aside, I also have established from Richard Sherman that he does, in fact, run a support group for players with chips on their shoulders. And that's what the hell they need right now to rebuild. We've had that conversation. And lastly, Rob is singing a certain ditty here, if you will. Trent got pics of Coen on a certain island. Bro, listen.
Lord.
Anyways, I think that's a nice comical place to end the show. Travis, tell the world where you could be found, my man.
Man, I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes, Blue Sky, X, etc., Facebook, Twitter, all of them. But most importantly, you can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, BigCatCountry.com. We have the head coaching tracker. It's updated as far as, as recently as before this podcast. So if you're listening to me
today,
as recently as today, and more importantly, we have the coaching profile series. So definitely take a look at that now with Jacksonville being down to their potentially third, fourth, fifth options. Before slamming these guys, maybe take a deeper dive and take a quicker look at what their accomplishments are and what their questions may be. You might walk away feeling a little bit better about some of these third and fourth options. So just, again, take a look before you smash these guys on social media. I do believe the Jacksonville Jaguars do have some solid options available. They're just not the top guys, and that's okay.
Yeah,
about you, sir?
they're not the guys you wanted first, but there still are good options. I agree with you there. It's a fine statement. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering the another friggin' struggling team I cover, the Orlando Magic, as well as my work with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 9:05 specifically, if you want to get technical. The Student of the Game podcast will take place where I will have Huddle Up Inc.'s own Sean Patrick, the evil twin of the CEO of Huddle Up, Jim Neese. He'll jump aboard to talk some conference championship Sunday with me. We'll pick that. We'll elaborate on the college national championship, such that it was the Buckeyes won the championship. That's kind of unsurprising with where the playoffs started. And then, of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. Of course, I just got done dropping a story there on women's basketball, them losing their center transfer from the roster there. So check that out, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Also, any updates with men's basketball and football on the Night Shift podcast, I will be there as well. So for all you commenters, thank you very much today. Great contribution for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes. I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class
Stay
dismissed.
Stay strong, Duval.
Stay strong.